those of you that don't know, all right, this is Dallas. He's our associate worship pastor. Now, before you applaud, he actually had just got married to Kelly 3 weeks ago, fresh back from his honeymoon. And Dallas, we love you, and we appreciate you, and just excited for you and this next journey that God's going to take you on in this chapter of your life. Hey, it's good to be back. I actually was on vacation last weekend, but give some props to Caleb and our student ministry. Heard last week was an amazing, amazing service, and teenagers were everywhere serving in every ministry of our church. And I love that, don't you? I love the fact that we have a generation of God chasers here at Crosspointe. I honor you for putting your students in an environment to where they can find and follow Jesus with their hearts and with their lives and with their souls. This past week, my wife and I were back, went back to our roots, went back to Kansas City, Missouri, where we're from, and got a chance to spend some time with Shannon's family. And then we decided that we would go to a Royals-Angels baseball game. And so what we did is it was Thursday, and we went to the game in Kansas City. And the nice thing about going to the game in Kansas City as opposed to here is that the tickets are half price, okay? So that was pretty amazing. But we really had some struggles back and forth because, we're from Kansas City. And, of course, 1985 was the last time they were good, okay, with like George Brett. And so now last year they had a good team, and so we started watching them again. Of course, we grew up going to Royals games, but since we've been out here, we've migrated. We have become Angel fans, okay, and we love the Angel games. And so Grandma, bought our kids, all this Royals gear. So Braden, who's 5 years old, my son, he had to make a choice, okay? So what he decided to do was wear the Royals shirt, okay, the Royals jersey, with the Angels hat. And so everything was going good, all right, but the Royals were winning most of the whole game. I don't know if you guys saw the game on Thursday night, but the Royals were winning almost the whole game. And then at the end, the Angels rallied and came back. So while the Royals were winning the whole time, Braden decided to take his Angel hat off. And then in the ninth, the Angels came back. So what Braden did is he put that Angel hat back on. And then after the Angels won, he's like, that's my team right there. That's my team. He was pretty pumped. Well, it's good to be back this weekend. We're in this series called From the Heart of David. And what we've been doing over the last few weeks is we've been studying this character in the Bible. He is the only person in the Bible called a person after God's own heart. And so what we're doing in this series is we're just studying the life of David, and we're extracting principles for our life and how we can be men and women that are after God's own heart. So today, we're going to focus in on David and his friends. David and his friends. And so here's what I want to do just to start off. I want to ask you to just pull your programs out. You should have received a program when you came in. Go ahead and take the pen out in front of you. And I'm actually going to give you an assignment and give you a couple minutes to do this. So if you got your programs, you got your pens, go ahead and pull it out. We're going to talk about your friends today. So I want to ask you just to write down your friends, okay? Just write their names right there in the program. Take a couple minutes, write down, and who would you say, is your friend? Who are your close friends? And don't write your spouse, okay? If you're married, don't write your spouse. Don't write your dog, okay? Just write out, who are your close friends? So go ahead, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to go ahead and do that right now. Just write it out. Who are your friends? Some of you, this is like a difficult assignment for some of you. You're just staring at me, just kind of glazy-eyed. I don't have any friends. I don't know. Some of you are writing a book right now, okay? All right, you got it? Who are your friends? Who are the people that you spend the most time with? Chris Rock, the comedian and actor, he was asked, what do your parents tell you that you didn't believe until now? He said, my mother always said, association brings assimilation, meaning you will act like the people you hang around. If you've been around me very long, I used to spend a lot of time with teenagers and college students, and I believe this is true for them, but I also believe it's true for us as well. Those of us that are older maybe have families as well. That your friends are like elevator buttons. They'll either take you up or they'll take you down. Think about the people that you spend time with. You are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I mean, as you think about those people, where they're at physically, where they're at financially, maybe those of you that are married, where they're at in their married life, those of you that are single, just their habits, their behaviors, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Remember the cell phone commercial? I think it was T-Mobile that said, your fave 5? It's like, who's in your fave 5? Who are your favorite 5 people? Who is it that you spend the most time with? I love what Andy Stanley says. He says, your friends will influence and possibly determine the direction and the quality of your life. You show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Wherever your friends are, that's where you are going to be. Solomon, he was the wisest man that ever lived. And in Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 20, he says, walk with the wise, and you'll become what, church? Wise. You want to be wise? Walk with people that are wise. Associate with fools, and what's going to happen? You're going to get yourself in trouble. How many have been around some fools before, okay? Yeah, that's what I thought. This is so true. You show me your friends, I will show you your future. According to the American Sociological Review, they said the average American today has 2 close friends. 2 close friends. I'm curious, how many did you write down? 2 close friends is the average American. Now, here's what's really interesting about this. Is 25 years ago, they said that the average American had 6 friends. 6. And in 25 years, we went from 6 friends to 2 friends. Here's the other thing that's very significant about this as well, is as they were doing a study, they found out that 25% of Americans, 1 in 4 Americans say they don't have any friends. Maybe some of you are like that today. Maybe I said, hey, write down your friends, and you had nothing, nada, blank piece of paper. Now, why is it? What happened in the United States of America? What happened when it came to our friends that we went from having 6 friends not that long ago to all of a sudden down to 2 friends, and for some even less than that? As I was just kind of processing and thinking through this, I think there's a few reasons why we have less friends. And the first is I think we just work more. Don't you think that? There's just a lot more time that we're spending at work, especially here in Southern California. It's expensive. Okay, so what do you have to do? You have to work, and by working, I mean, some of you, it's like you work all day. You get up early, you work all day, you get home late at night, and what do? You immediately just want to veg out and crash, and you wake up the next morning, and you do it all over again. It's like, I don't have any time for friends. I'd like to have some people to hang out with. I just don't have any time, and that's one reason why I think we don't have as many friends today. Another reason why people don't have as many friends today is, I believe, because of divorce. It's like, it works like this, okay? We're going to get a divorce, and you get the house, I get the car, you get the friends. So you know what? It rips people apart. It rips friendships. It rips relationships apart, and people have to take sides, and here's where I'm at. And you've spent years and years and years cultivating and building these relationships, and then in this moment, they're gone. Another reason why I believe that we don't have as many friends today is because of the explosion of social media. I mean, social media has completely changed our world. I got this picture the other day I thought was hilarious on Facebook. It says, I'm trying to make friends outside of Facebook while applying the same Facebook principles. Therefore, every day I walk down the street and tell passersby what I've eaten, how I feel at the moment, what I've done the night before, what I will do later, and with whom. I give them pictures of my family, my dog, my gardening, taking things apart in the garage, watering the lawn, standing in front of landmarks, driving around town, having lunch, and doing what anybody and everybody does every day. I love this part, listen to their conversation, give them the thumbs up, and tell them I like them. And it works just like Facebook. I already have 4 people following me. 2 police officers, a private investigator, and a psychiatrist. Now, there's nothing wrong with social media, but it should be a supplement to relationships and not a replacement of relationships. I mean, it's a supplement, not a replacement. Now, sociologists tell us that there are 3 types of poverty that people can experience. And poverty, it's a brutal thing. It's a horrible thing. The three different types of poverty, the first is material poverty. And as I walked in this morning, I was in the back, and I kind of looked back at some heads, and I thought, man, there's a lot of people here at the 9 o'clock service that went to Guatemala. How many of you went to Guatemala? Just raise your hand. All right. Awesome. Give them a big hand. We just had a team that just came back from Guatemala with our orphanage and building a church, and we were following you guys on Facebook. Just so you know, we're glad you're back. We've been lifting you up and praying for you, and can't wait to hear more of your stories. But I can tell you, these people, they witnessed poverty, did you not? You saw people that didn't have very much at all, and you know, there is a real thing of material poverty, and they got to experience it. I mean, they got to smell the missionary air. They got to taste the missionary food, and they got to just experience and see the poverty, you know, firsthand. Next Saturday night, we were talking about this. We were saying, you know, it's really hard in a 30-minute service, a 30-minute message to be able to, you know, give you a taste and experience of everything that they got to experience while they were at Guatemala. So next Saturday night, all of our teams from both of our trips, we have nearly 50 people who went to Guatemala in the last 6 weeks. We're going to go over to Main Street. And we're going to have a couple hours. It's kind of come and go. We're going to have some food. And, man, they're just going to debrief. We're going to have some music. It's going to be a great night. So if you want to come be a part of that, it'll be next Saturday night, 6:30, after the Saturday night service. We'll just be on Main Street. Come hang out. You'll find us up there. You say, we're out on Main Street. It's not that big. Just come up, and you'll find us and be a part. And you'll get to hear some stories of material poverty. A second type of poverty would be a spiritual poverty. And this is when you have everything except for God, except for Jesus. You know, that means you can have everything and you can be spiritually bankrupt in your life. You know, I always go back to our series that we did last year, Jesus Period, because Jesus, or you know, everything minus Jesus equals nothing. It means that you have spiritual poverty in your life. The third type of poverty is relational poverty. And that's what we're talking about today. So when you don't have friends. You know, we go from 6 friends to 2 friends to 1 friend to no friends at all. So what I want to do in our time left together today is I want to talk to you about David and his friends. Because David had 3 different types of friends that I believe every single one of us need. And as I'm giving you these 3 different types of friends today, I believe every single one of us will see a deficiency in our lives. Maybe there's 1 friend that we're missing in our life. For some of you, maybe 2. Some of you, maybe all 3. And I just want to tell you about 3 different types of friends that every single one of us need. So you guys ready? Here's David's first friend that he had. It was Samuel. And Samuel was a designer. Samuel the designer. Now, when I say the word designer, immediately my brain thinks of an interior designer. You know what an interior designer does? It sees things that other people don't see. About 4 years ago, we redid our kitchen in our house. And as we were redoing the kitchen, we brought different people in to be able to give us pricing and so that it fit within our budget. But one of the beauties that we didn't even realize was they were giving us ideas and things that we never could have thought of before. And I remember this one person came in, was an interior designer, and he was giving us ideas in the kitchen. But then on his way out, he looked in our living room and he saw our curtains and he said, raise those up about 6 inches. And then he walked out the door. And you know what? I would have never thought about raising those up 6 inches, and we still haven't done it. But do you know how many times I walked by? I still walk by, and I'm like, we need to raise those up 6 inches. And you know what? That's what a designer does, is they see things that you don't see. See, that's what Samuel was for David. If you were here the very first week, let me just give you a little review of how Samuel was the designer for David. King Saul was the king of Israel. And he got a lot of power, a lot of fame, and it went to his head. And all of a sudden, he thought he was God rather than serve God. And God said, listen, I've had enough of that. And so he says, you're no longer going to be the king of Israel. Listen, I'm going to anoint a new king. So he went to Samuel and said, Samuel, he says, I want you to go to Jesse's house because it's going to be one of Jesse's sons. So he shows up, Samuel does, to Jesse's house, and Jesse has all of his sons like lined up. And they're all lined up knowing that they could be the next king of Israel. And so sure enough, Samuel comes by, and it's like, you know, it's like The Bachelor, okay? The Bachelorette. It's like they're all lined up there, and they're like, pick me, pick me, pick me. But what happens is he goes by, and he looks at all of them, and he's like, nope, not you, nope, not you. And then he looks at Jesse, he's like, listen, you got 7 sons here. Do you have any more? He's like, well, I got one more, but I mean, he's not the one. I mean, he's out in the field. So sure enough, they bring little David in. And Samuel was a designer because he saw things in David that no one else saw in David. And here's what he said in 1 Samuel chapter 16. It says, so Jesse sent for him. And here was David. He was dark and handsome. This is Samuel describing him. Beautiful eyes. And the Lord said, this is the one. Anoint him. So as David stood there among his brothers, Samuel took the flask of olive oil he had brought, and he anointed David with the oil. Here's the thing. Samuel, through the help of God, saw things in David that no one else would have been able to see. So let me ask you this. Do you have a designer in your life? Do you have someone like Samuel in your life who's taking you somewhere else that you can't go by yourself? Do you have a Samuel in your life that's taking you somewhere that is trying to make you better? Man, that's spurring you along. I have to tell you, I'm blessed to have a Samuel in my life. His name's not Samuel. His name's Steve. And once a month, Steve and I would talk on the phone. And Steve lives in Texas. And what Steve does for me is he's a designer. He's a pastor that has a lot of ministry experience. It's gone a lot. You know, he's been down roads I've never been down. And you know what I do with him? Every month, I just share all my problems with him. So I just collect them. So every time I have a problem or a challenge, it could be, you know, in my family, it could be on our staff, it could be in our ministry, whatever it is. I just like, you know, put the problem down, and then I talk to Steve, and I'm like, Steve, what do we do about this? And I was telling him about our crowd, and he's like, well, you need to get some seaters, okay? People that can like seat people along the way. You know, now we got people that are seating people along the way. You see, Steve, he just helps me out. He just gives me insights that I just don't see on my own. How about you? Do you have somebody like that? You have a designer in your life? Somebody that's going to see something in you that you don't see in yourself. You need a designer in your life. Here's the second friend that David had. He had Jonathan. And Jonathan, he was a developer. Jonathan was a developer. Man, he gave David spiritual strength. Fast forward the story. So here's what happens. David, okay, he then goes to fight Goliath. You heard that story last week. And as he goes and he fights Goliath, he kills Goliath. Goliath is like 9 feet, you know, something tall, okay? I mean, he's huge. He's massive. And he kills Goliath. And after he kills Goliath, everybody hears the story, right? I mean, they're all afraid of Goliath. They hear, you won't believe it, David killed Goliath. I mean, man, we won. We're victorious. So as David comes back in, all the ladies, they make up this little cheer for him. Any cheerleaders? Any of you ever been a cheerleader before? All right, here's the cheer that they come up. They're like, Saul has killed his thousands. David has killed his 10,000s. Saul has killed his thousands. David has killed his 10,000s. And everybody's like, yeah, David. Go, David. And Saul hears the cheer. And he doesn't like the cheer as much as everybody else likes the cheer. So what he says, I'm going to kill him. That's all I'm going to do. He killed Goliath. I'm going to kill him. See, that will put me on top again. So here's what happens. 1 Samuel chapter 23, verse 15. One day near Horish, David received the news that Saul was on the way to Ziph to search for him and kill him. Jonathan the developer. He went to find David, and here's what a developer does. He encouraged him to stay strong in his faith in God. We should just leave that on the screen for a little bit, Parker. Because I think that we just need to burn that inside of us. We need to make sure that that just gets concreted inside of us. That we have somebody that encourages us to stay strong in the faith with God. You know, this morning I got a text, and I get this text every single Sunday morning for probably 2 years. This is from a pastor friend of mine named Anthony Milas. And Anthony, he pastors way on the East Coast, a long way. And here's what he texted me this morning, 4:47 a.m., but this is East Coast time, so he's up early. He says, good morning, Kingdom Impact player. Today, as you sow the seed of God's word, the result of your faithfulness will be seeing people with shattered dreams find out that there is an amazing God who's in the business of restoring broken hearts, giving hope to the hopeless and help to the helpless. What you do matters, and it's making a difference in the here and the now and the when and the then. I love you, and I'm praying for you right now. Every Sunday, I get a text like that from Anthony. Every single Sunday. See, you know what he does? He encourages me to stay strong in my faith in God. How about you? Do you have somebody like that in your life? Do you have somebody that's a developer that is just pouring into your life? And I'm not talking about like somebody that's like, yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I listen to the fish. Yeah, I've got a cross chain necklace that I still have from the 80s. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody that you can just share what's going on in your life and just share, what's happening. And they come alongside you and they call you and they check in on you and they text you and they pray with you. See, because I don't care how mature you are, there is going to come a time in your life when you're going to face a dip in your life. And you're going to need somebody in your life. When everybody walks out of your life, you need a developer that's going to walk in and say, listen, I'm hanging with you. I'm going to stay with you through thick and thin. You need somebody that's going to text you encouraging Bible verses. You need somebody that's going to pat you on the back and say, I'm here, and God is strong, and God is bigger than what you're facing right now. Listen, what I want you to do is I want you to stay strong in your faith in God. I realize it looks like you're about to die. I realize the odds are all stacked against you. I realize it's looking very bleak right now. But our God is faithful, and you need to keep the faith right now. See, that's a developer. How about you? There's somebody like that in your life? A designer? A developer? Then here's the third friend that David had. He had a disturber. Nathan the disturber. Now, you and I, we don't like disturbers in our life. And a lot of us, what we'll do is we'll push back on people that are going to disturb us. They're going to mess up our status quo. That are going to try to move us out of the safe zone and into the faith zone. People that are going to call us out. People are going to tell us, hey, listen, man, you need to get it together. People that are going to disturb you. Listen, true friends, don't let friends have tacos in their teeth. Seriously. I mean, a true friend is hey, you got something right there, right? You're not really a true friend if you just let them walk around like that, are you? Listen, we all have tacos in our teeth, spiritually speaking, at times. We all have things that we don't see. The people need to say, listen, you need to get that in check. If you don't get that in check, listen, man, that could seriously hurt you. I'm going to be a disturber in your life. I'm going to step up. I'm going to say, I'm not going to let you go down like that. I'm not going to let that happen in your marriage. Nathan, the disturber. Here's what happened. David, fast forward the story. He becomes king. He's a mighty warrior. And through God's strength in his life, man, they're slaying giants. They're killing people. And Israel is hot. They're the winning team. Then all of a sudden, David gets comfortable. He gets to the top, and he starts getting a little bit of that arrogancy, a little bit of that pride. Israel was out fighting the war, and normally the king was like in the front battle. I mean, he's like out leading, but David's like, I got comfortable. And he's like, leave that for the younger guys. And I've had my time, and I've done that. I'm just going to sit around now. I'm going to stay back. Sure enough, while he stays back, he looks out his window one night, and he sees this woman taking a bath. Her name is Bathsheba. He sees her out there, and he's like, she's looking pretty good right now. So he's the king. I mean, he can do anything he wants. So he gets the servants together and says, hey, why don't you bring her over to my house tonight? Her husband is off at war, protecting the country. What does he do? He seduces her. He commits adultery with her. And after he commits adultery with her, he doesn't even it doesn't even affect him. I mean, this is David, a man after God's own heart, but he got to a place where his heart just became hard, and he just became arrogant and prideful. He didn't even see it. It's like this big deal. He just thought he was entitled as the king. Then Nathan, the disturber, came along. And Nathan sat him down and said, David, I want to tell you the story of this man that's right here in our kingdom right now. And he says, here's what happened. He said that there's this rich man. And he said he owns like thousands of cattle and goats. And I mean, this guy's like filthy loaded. He's got sheep everywhere. And he says, and then there's another guy. And he's a poor man. And he only has one little lamb. He said, but this one little lamb he loves so much. I mean, it became part of the family. It's like, you know, they like pet the lamb. They take it everywhere they go. I mean, like the lamb like eats off his plate. It's like they love this little lamb. And this traveler came by, and he was hungry. And the rich man said, listen, I'll feed you. But instead of taking from the thousands of sheep that he had, he took this one man's little lamb, and he sacrificed it so that that hungry guy could be able to eat. He said, this is happening right here. And David became furious and angry and mad. And he says, that man deserves to die. Who is that man? And Nathan turned around and looked at him and he said, you're the man. You're the one. And he disturbed David so much. And here's what David did. The difference between David and Saul is that David became broken. And he bawled. He knew that he had messed up. He knew that he needed to repent. He knew that he needed to do a 180 in his life, that he's going this direction. And if he doesn't turn it around, things are going to get even worse. He's like, I got to do a 180. If you ever want to just read his confession and read what it's like to have a broken heart, to take full responsibility for sin, read Psalm 51. Read it tonight before your head hits a pillow tonight. I'm telling you, it'll shake you. So what David did is he repented to God. And he turned his life around. And he got a fresh start. But it only happened because of Nathan, who disturbed him in his situation. I was at a Mexican restaurant here in town a few months back. And I was sitting with a friend of mine, another guy here at the church. And we were having a conversation. And I just vomited on him. You ever do that? It's like, things just started coming out of my mouth. It's just like, ugh. I just had this conversation, and it all had to do with like our church. And I was like, we've been like 3.5 years trying to find a building. And I was like, this fall we're going to have some major space challenges. And right now we got problems because we got so many teenagers coming on Wednesday nights. And then we got Awana's going to start. And it's like, we're going to have 150 teenagers. We're going to have 150 kids. We got 300. We don't have space. We don't have room. I mean, I'm just like vomiting all over him. And then here's how I ended my talk. Here's how I ended my conversation with him. I said, but, I'm faith-filled. Big thinking, bet the farm, risk taker. I'm not going to insult God with small thinking and safe living. And he looked at me and he disturbed me. And he said, listen, you talk about that. You even made a sign about it and put it on the wall that everybody can see when they come in. He said, but it's not in here. You know what he did? He disturbed me. And he was exactly right. And I'm thankful that I have people in my life that are designers, that see things I don't see, that are developers, that encourage me and strengthen me in the things of God, and that disturb me. Say, listen, man, you got some tacos in your teeth. You need to get that out right now. Listen, if I can be so dramatic just for a moment, just give me a chance to be dramatic, just for a moment. Some of you right now, because of your friends, your future is heading to a place that's destructive. Some of you, some of the names that you wrote down at the beginning, you are who you hang out with. And some of you, you'll never become who God wants you to be because you are relationally impoverished. Some of you, your future is headed towards divorce because of the people you hang out with. Some of you, you're gonna start a new addiction in your life because of the people that you're hanging out with. Some of you, your kids right now are going to have one of the worst school years of their life because of some of the people you're allowing them to hang out with. Some of you, you're about to lose your reputation. Your name that you have built for years and years and years, you're about to lose your reputation because of some of the people that you're hanging out with. And some of you, if I can be so dramatic, your future is going to land you in jail if you keep hanging out with the people that you're hanging out with. And for some of you today, you're not going to be in jail. But possibly maybe even worse. You're going to continue to live a lukewarm, uncommitted, selfish life that's all about yourself and the accumulation of things because of some of the people that you're hanging out with. And what I believe is this. Let me disturb you just for a second. I believe that many of you are one friend away. You are one friend away from having the marriage that God would want you to have. You are one friend away from being the parent that God has called you to be. You are one friend away from shaking this addiction that you've had in your life for years. For many of you, listen, you're one friend away from meeting Jesus. You're one friend away from tapping into the power of God and what He's doing. You're one friend away from meeting Jesus, and He is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. So, in conclusion, by the way, when a pastor says in conclusion, doesn't usually mean a thing, okay? But right now, this is the real deal right now. You got to be asking yourself, so what do I do to get these kind of friends? I mean, I'd love to have people like you're talking about. How do I get somebody like that in my life? You ready for it? This is the grand finale. How do I get a designer? How do I get a disturber? How do I get a developer in my life? Ready? This is it. I mean, you're about to get the fireworks are about to be unleashed. I mean, everything I've got is coming right now. You ready? If you want to get those kind of friends, you have to be that kind of a friend. You have to be a designer in other people's life. You have to be a developer in other people's life. And you have to be a disturber. You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Listen, you are the equivalent of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So how about you? See, like attracts like. Here at Crosspointe, I realize that some of you would love to have relationships like what I'm talking about. And here's what we've done. We've built an on-ramp for you. I can't guarantee it. But what I can do is I can tell you that if you'll put yourself in an environment, if you'll put your students in an environment, you'll put your children in an environment, they can get around people like this. And here at our church, we've created an on-ramp. Here's what we call it, growth groups. And growth groups are groups of 8, 10, 12, 15 people that get together once a week. And you know what they do? They develop one another. You know what they do? They design one another. And here's what they do at times. They disturb one another. Next weekend, we're going to give you an opportunity to be involved in a group. I want you to just take this week just to pray about it. Say, God, am I ready for this? A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, is what Solomon said.